Welcome to Fan View. The first episode for me, Coach Hurricane Hen. Our other co-host Fred is not in the building today. Um, we changed the platform of how we're doing the show. We hope you guys that's been tuning in to Fan View over the last 4 to 5 years continue to chime in and listen to these conversations and this dialogue that we're going to be having with these different athletes, different coaches, amongst ourselves. Today, for the first episode of Fan View on this new platform, we got the Pokey Chatman in the building. Louisiana native, right there from Amer, Louisiana. Everybody knows her for coaching LSU and the Seattle Storm and some of those national teams overseas. Welcome to the first Fan View podcast, Pokey.
Listen, I'm happy to be here. They may know me because I'm old. I'm old head. But no, it's just good to be here. And I
Right.
appreciate you guys, chopping it up with you. I know you talk all sports, so it's nice to get out of my comfort zone,
Mm-hmm.
with basketball, and chop it up with some of the pros.
Definitely, definitely. Pokey, man, I know you're just coming out of a season, man, with the Seattle Storm, and I know that things didn't go how y'all wanted it to go. Um, man, you got to see Sue Bird, Brianna Stewart, Tarazi, all those girls, man. You in a great situation if you're a basketball fan like myself. Just talk about that experience with the Seattle Storm and going through that to a team like that with that culture that was already set and being a part of something like that, even though the season didn't go, how y'all wanted it to go.
Look, you nailed it. You started with Sue Bird, right? And the backdrop of that is I actually coached Sue Bird and the head coach of Seattle in Russia. So that speaks to my age again. But no, it also speaks to I don't know if I could have just gone anywhere to be someone's right hand, but that organization's elite, Noel Quinn's elite, and then to be there for Sue's last year, Stewie, like you mentioned,
Yep.
Jewel Lloyd. But the bottom line is that I could feel like a fan sometimes. And let me qualify that. In that building with 18,000 people, the NBA players that had so much respect, the NFL players that had so much respect, it was really a city that embraced the superstars that were on that team, and it's been in the building. So I was happy to be a part of that.
Now, the question I think a lot of people want to ask is how hard is it when you have a young star like a Brianna Stewart on the team, but then you have one of the pioneers in the game in Sue Bird
Mm-hmm.
going through her last year to weather the emotions of this is her last 3 point shot, this is her last all the what ifs instead of enjoying the moment
Right.
per se, and also uplifting that young nucleus of the team that y'all have to keep going to show like to kind of take the spotlight away from the one person
Right.
and keep the team culture intact.
I think they made that decision when they hired the coach the previous year because she played there. She was offensive coordinator, so she knew, how things rocked. So that helped alleviate the pressure off of Sue. Because people forget Sue was 41 years old, and
Yeah.
sometimes things didn't work as well as she wanted it to work. So she had that right hand with Noel on the bench. But I also think that nucleus of players, because you think about it, Jewel Lloyd, she won gold medals. Stewie had won gold medals.
Right.
So they didn't get high or they didn't get low. They just rolled with it. Let's just hoop. So that was a big part of it. But look, I can't deny that sometimes you just get overwhelmed by the love that Sue had. People
Right.
crying and doing it.
Right.
I'm like, damn, we got to play a game now.
Right.
I got to
Right.
wipe these tears first. But I think it actually helped that they were so high level.
How has Sue been able to play as long as she has? I mean, I'm 38, and she's in her 40s, and I like sometimes I try to go play pickup basketball, and after I play, man, I'm sore. So like, how has she been able to maintain her body and still be able to play at a high level and compete and have you guys as one of the best teams in the WNBA? Though?
Listen, I told Sue the documentary, now that she's done, needs to be about how she took care of her body.
Right.
Because everyone was going overseas. Everyone goes overseas. They play in the WNBA, so they're playing a double season, right? Sue stopped going overseas about 7 years ago. So it's like treads on a tire, right? So she took some of that off, but she hired nutritionists, she acupuncturist, she takes care of her body, and it's a lifestyle thing. And I think that's the story because look, there's some people that's in their 40s that might play, but they're not very good,
Mhm.
right? So it's that totality of her existence that did it. And I swear, like I got to see it up close and personal in Russia and in Seattle, and that's the story I hope they tell now.
So when you think about when the WNBA came about, and with this year, like we celebrate with 25, going into it, where do you think Sue Bird ranks?
That's a good question.
Because you like,
Put on the spot.
when we came up, it was Cynthia Cooper,
Cheryl
Cheryl
Swoops.
Swoops, Tina Thompson,
With
Lisa
the lipstick.
Leslie. Yeah, hey, it was the lipstick for me,
Right,
baby.
right.
And then like you have that next wave. The Dana Taurasi's, the Sues,
Simone's.
you know what I'm saying,
Sylvia,
like that.
everybody.
I lost.
Which one?
I got Candace.
Candace
Oh,
Parker.
okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
sure.
I'm looking at her face, but
Maya Moore.
Yeah,
Maya Moore,
Dookie, baby.
tons of them.
Oh, he a big time Duke fan.
Oh, okay.
Big time
okay,
Duke
okay,
fan.
Okay. Look, I think you think about Sue is the position. How many point guards you named in that group? True point guards.
Right.
I think just Cynthia.
And she was a scoring point guard.
Right.
She was Kyrie before it was cool to be Kyrie, right?
Yeah,
She was
yeah.
putting the ball in the hole.
Yeah.
But like for Sue to maintain that position, that level, and that style without having to drop 18, she still averaged about 10, 12, dishing out 7 or 8. But it was her mind. Like she just quarterbacked everything, offensively, defensively, and that's the part I would call a Rain Man because you could ask Sue about something. I remember we were practicing one day and I wanted to put in something. She said, "Oh yeah, we ran that in Russia." And I was like, "Damn, that was like 9 years ago."
Photograph memory.
She remember that, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's her mind, along with her making up her mind to take care of her body, that helped her stay at the top.
I want to go back to when the WNBA started and the Houston Comets came on the scene with Tina Thompson and Cheryl Swoops and Cynthia Cooper. I remember how they just dominated the league. And I know it was only about 6 teams, 8 teams back then. But still, I thought that was something very special. But what I want to talk about is Cheryl Miller always says that if they would have had a WNBA when she was coming out, they would never even be talking about Cynthia Cooper and the Houston Comets because whoever she was playing with, they would have dominated the league. What's your response to Cheryl Cooper? Cheryl Miller is very cocky when it comes to women's basketball.
Listen, she can back it up too.
Yep.
So that's on brand for her. And she may have some I may have to give her some props there. But I think what happens is each year, you know how the game develops and there's trends and there's the long ball and there's positionless basketball.
Yep.
So I think that would have closed the gap for it. But it would have been nice to see. But the special thing about those 3 that you mentioned, could you imagine those 3 scorers on any NBA team or college team right now?
Yeah.
I mean, Coop, Swoops, and Tina Thompson. That's crazy.
And they all did something different.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It was different. Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
Because he hit a name. He hit a name. So like when you think about the NBA, and the GOAT comes up, everybody always goes, MJ. Some people have LeBron. Some people, Kobe. Depending on what you like. But when it comes to the WNBA, you kind of don't get that. So in your opinion, for somebody who's been around the game in all aspects as a player, as a coach, collegiate, professional, domestic, overseas, who would you say would be is the mantle for women's basketball?
Wow, that's a good one. It's not one, I can tell you that. I think sometimes because there's always a crossing of worlds with athletics, right? A lot of people will identify with Taurasi.
Right.
Because of UConn, Phoenix, and 5 gold medals.
Yep.
And the personality, right? Because she's that part, right? In that word, I'm not saying she is, but then I coach Simone, I coach Sylvia, like I'm rocking there because they took a program and elevated it everywhere they went. So I think it's different factions of it, and maybe because we hadn't been in existence at the pro level as long, only 25, 6, 7 years, it's a little bit different. But some people will start with D as being the GOAT, but I just think it needs to be a shared space with about 5 of them, actually.
You brought up my favorite women's basketball player of all time, Simone Augustus.
Yes, indeed.
I remember when she was in the 9th grade at Capitol High School, she kept playing against Ellender. That's from my hometown. And she couldn't beat him.
Oh.
She couldn't beat Ellender. And the headline said, when she finally beat him, I think the headline said, 3rd time wasn't the charm. something like that. But when it was in Hammond, I was at the game. It was in Hammond, and she finally beat Ellender. And she showed so much emotion when the clock was running down. And I think I was in the 8th or the 9th grade. And I'm just such a basketball historian, so passionate about sports. I actually shedded a tear and I hit it. Like I tried to hide my face.
Come on now.
You know what I'm saying?
Right,
Man,
right.
I like my mom could attest to this. Like I had the Sports Illustrated while I printed it off the computer with her on the front of Sports Illustrated, and I
Right.
put it on my wall. And all my friends would come over and be like, man, you got a girl on your wall? I'm like, man, Simone will beat all y'all.
Exactly.
She'll beat all y'all. But I want to go back to that time. Do you remember watching her in high school, and when you first said to yourself, Simone gonna be one of the best basketball players to ever live?
Listen, you said high school. I went to her middle school games. So we were
So
practicing.
hold on.
Middle
How
school.
did you even know to even go to a middle school game?
I mean, I was at LSU, so it's Simone, and you know.
So her
and it's
name was
capital.
ringing way back in middle school, like
yes.
7th grade?
Yeah. And they played games early, so I would leave practice, go
Wow.
to a middle school game, and then watching her just drop things, you know. But the thing about it is, she could always play with the ball in her hands.
Mm-hmm.
And what people don't know is that how she elevated her game, she came to LSU, we ran motion.
Mm-hmm.
But then she became the best screener, the best cutter. She makes these reads. Then her mid-range was crazy. Then they said, oh, mid-range is dead. I'm like, hell no, it's not. Not for Simone.
Right.
Right? So she just kept evolving, getting medals, winning championships. And she's a special bird. Yeah, love her.
So when you watched her in middle school,
Mhm.
you knew, okay, she gonna be one of the best basketball players to ever live. Did you know that, or did you say to yourself, she has potential? I
Man,
don't
look,
know.
I'm going to stop you right now. You knew.
You knew.
You knew, like, the ball was an extension of herself. And to be so dominant at that age with that skill set, but then knew how to get everybody else involved. You don't normally see some kids who got some skill. They driving about 50. Nobody else doing anything, right? Like, you just knew she had a passion, love for the game, and people like playing with her.
Now, how scared were y'all on signing day? Everybody thought she was about to come out with the Tennessee. Everybody thought Pat Summer had her. I thought Pat Summer had her. I ain't gonna lie to you. I was like, man, she need to go to Tennessee.
Oh,
I ain't gonna lie to you.
Dagger in the heart.
No, look,
Hey,
and
hey,
it is nothing against LSU. It's nothing against LSU. I'm a root for the home team, but what you gotta think about it. Shamika Holslaw, I was a big time Shamika Holslaw fan.
Yeah.
And at that time, I just wanted to see Simone on that stage. LSU hadn't established itself as one of the mecca teams in girls college basketball. So that's the only reason I was saying it. It was nothing against LSU. It was just I want to see her play on that stage.
Yeah.
And look, it's funny because that's the reason that helped us get her.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
why go be another Holslaw? Why go through the mill? And that's a compliment to Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, you're going to be home. We're going to love on you. This state going to love on you. Every sport's going to love on you. Be the first, plant your flag, plant your seeds, water it, and then it's flowers, So I can understand that at the time. But she did the damn thing. And
So you knew the day she was signing and she was coming to y'all. It was still
we
up in the
knew.
air.
We knew.
Y'all been knew.
No. We didn't bend no. Like, it's funny because, like, I knew, but then people are like, nah, I don't know. She might be going to Duke. I'm like, Duke? Then they
I
say
never heard that
Tennessee.
one.
And I was like, nah, we knew prior to everyone else knowing that she was coming.
Gotcha.
So, speaking on LSU, what was it like? Somebody being from the state, somebody who. First of all, let me ask you this question: does Ama claim the Tri-Parish or the River Parish?
No.
I'm trying to ask.
River Parish.
Real Parish. I'm just trying to
River
make sure
Parish, River Parish.
because we have this debate all the time.
Really?
I told you, it's Terrebonne, LaFouche, and Assumption. That's
I'm just trying to make sure you ain't
River
stealing
Parish.
nobody.
River
I'm just
Parish.
trying because Jefferson Parish, we don't have to steal nobody.
River Parish do their thing, though. They do
I'm
their
just
thing.
trying to make sure that you ain't
We
trying
play
to
some good basketball down there in Homer. Now don't sleep.
Yeah, y'all got us in basketball. Meet us on the gridiron.
We got a football area. But
and then somebody who played at Hornville, played at LSU, then got to coach there, and her record might not have said it, but she's a figure in Sue Gunther that is synonymous with LSU basketball,
Right.
and to take over from that mantle.
Right.
Look, what type of pressure was that like? Being a home town person, being a LSU Tiger,
Right.
and having to take over the flagship and then turn into, I think what y'all went on the run with like 3 straight Final Four
Right.
appearances,
Right.
something
Right.
like that.
Right.
what was that like?
You know, it wasn't pressure because I always have to remind people why I was able to take over. She got sick.
Yep.
So
I forgot about
that.
that.
No, it's not about forgetting, but it changes the emotion. So when you're in that moment, you're just like, we got to make this work. So you're not thinking about all the outside stuff, right? And the thing about Coach Gunner is that, she wanted people who were going to become head coach on her staff. She let you do your thing. It wasn't. We were ready for that. Not just me, but everybody around us. So it wasn't really pressure. It was just like, I want to do well because this woman prepared us well. So it was more about that. You don't really feel all the outside stuff when you're in it. And then she was such a good person and coach. And you mentioned it, like she was the head coach of the Olympic team in '80 when we boycotted. Pat Summit was her assistant.
Right.
So people forget that because it wasn't on TV.
Right.
And people don't know, but
Right.
like that's what I got to be around, right? And then the players loved her, so you knew they were going to elevate to that next level. So I didn't feel the pressure. I just felt like, damn, this, when it was all said and done, it's like she was sick. At the end of the day, it was hard to enjoy in that sense.
Times have changed so much when it comes to recruiting and evaluating when you came out of high school versus now.
Right.
Pokey, when you came out, full-time All-American? 5-time All-American?
I don't know. A few.
Something like that.
A few.
No, it was multiple All-Americans coming out of high school.
I got a couple in.
Yeah. But how did your recruiting go back then versus how it is now? What made you say I'm going to LSU? Did you kind of tinker with any other schools? Was it stressful? Did your family play a big part into the decision? Like, what happened?
Was it a brown paper bag?
Listen. I wish it was with some NIL deals up in that mug, right?
Right.
No,
But what was the difference between when you was coming out versus how it is today, and how you dealt with it?
The short version is we thought it was a lot of pressure, right? All these letters and people calling you, but when I compare it to today, it was a cakewalk basically. But you didn't have all the contact and the phone calls, so you could really become focused on what's involved. Now they can talk to them when they're in the 9th grade. A lot of outside influence. It makes it really, really hard. So a lot easier compared to now, but I like the fact that the game has evolved so much that, I think I read yesterday where South Carolina, every player on the South Carolina women's basketball team is going to have a $25,000 NIL deal, right?
Yep.
So, you're talking about a brown paper bag. Hell, I just wanted to get a meal,
Right.
when I went on a visit. But it was, over 300 schools recruiting, but it was very regimented, organized. And sometimes when you're a kid living in a small town, you think, I'm going to go far away, right? You think the grass is greener.
Right.
Coach Gunn used to always say, the grass is greener my ass.
Right. Right.
You think
right.
it is. And then so I ended up wanting to be at LSU because Tech was a big, Louisiana Tech was really good back then.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, we can be that here. So I wanted to be a part of something new and special. And then Sue, she was real, and you can't really fake that. So I thought I would go away, but then after my junior year, I knew where I was going.
What schools was in the mix?
Well, it actually came down to Louisiana Tech.
Okay.
It really did.
Louisiana Tech and LSU.
Yeah, Louisiana Tech.
That's when
and LSU.
Louisiana Tech was hot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they were having they were hot. Then they had a little bit of a lull, so they were trying to get back on that. But I'm like, so it came down to that. But I knew I was going to LSU.
So was the AAU scene kind of like big when you was doing your recruitment?
It was, but not like now. Like you got these elite, Nike, Under Armour, Adidas. No.
Yeah, because I don't think people realize how, just how as much as the women's game grew, how much the AAU, because we had the Park Rec League around here.
right.
The best of the best make an all-star team and you'll play like that. But now, so as I guess the question would be, when you was recruiting, did you take the AAU circuit, like what kids do at the AAU circuit? Did that hold more weight over what somebody might do in their district in the playoffs or something? Just because it's national talent, you got to see what they do against other top dogs in their perspective?
It did. It weighed a little bit heavier because sometimes they can play out of position in high school and then excel. But coming to you, they can't do that. And you're like, no, sweetheart, you're not going to be in the post. You're only 5'11". You're going to be on the perimeter. working on your handles, but also the competition was a lot tougher in AAU. So you got to see him play against the best. But then the next phase of that was you always wanted to go back to their high school to see how they ran things. Like if they were the person in their high school, did they told the mail, were they that lead and all that good stuff. But the AAU was definitely the key.
So
Definitely.
would you? All right. If somebody, let's say they both, there's a kid that averages 25 and 10
Mhm.
in high school, like just for their domestic high school, but you got the same kid is another kid that's averaging, let's say, 19, 12, and 8 in any type of capacity on the AAU circuit.
Mhm.
Which one you coming down to? They both play the same position and stuff like that. Which one is like?
It's not the numbers. It's not the numbers. Like the numbers, it's gonna be the eye and gut test and fit test, right? That's so close, and then those numbers may not even mesh in my world. But I would just be impressed by both of them. You know, I would have a problem. We'd have to get in deeper to some character stuff. If they can play multiple positions, like that's a big thing right now. It's
Versatility.
like, yeah, it's like, can you know, everybody say I can play both. I can play 5 positions. Oh no, they said I can play multiple positions. I said you can play the number of positions you can guard as well. They're always thinking about offense, right? So it comes down to who is, you know, multidimensional. And I mean, that's where the men's game is going, NBA, even our game. Like Stewie, she's a hybrid, right? That's what makes us good because she can play 2, 3, 4, and 5 if we go small. So I get 4 and 1. And so as players, remember that, like when we're talking, sometimes I work with some young kids doing some player development stuff. I'm like, work on all that. You know, we can punch into the post one time, get a post move, you know. So the versatility would probably come into play for those two you talked about.
I want to talk about your relationship with Dawn Staley, who is, you know, one of my favorite women's basketball players of all time. I feel like back then when Dawn and Rebecca Lobo and Lisa Leslie was coming out and Cheryl Swoops them, like women's basketball was promoted way harder back then. I feel like we knew about the top dogs and some of the best basketball players in the world when it comes to women's back then versus now. Like I still remember when Dawn Staley was on Martin.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, when they played the little 3-on-3 stuff like
yeah.
that, like
Right.
that was publicity.
Yeah.
You know, if you didn't watch women's basketball, you wanted to know who they were after watching that show. So, and I love Dawn Staley because she kind of reminded me of myself in a woman's body because that's kind of how I played the game. Don't take that the wrong way. That's how you look at it.
I wasn't even looking. I was seeing my peripheral.
But you know that quick.
No, you're right.
You know, competitive, that bulldog mentality. You know, gotta do a little more because of your size.
Right.
But I always love Dawn Staley. I love her personality. I love the way she handles the media. You know, when they try to paint certain narratives. But talk about your relationship with Dawn Staley, man, and the success she's having in South Carolina. Who would have thought somebody would have South Carolina as a powerhouse?
Listen, you better stop me because I could talk all day about Dawn. No, but to your point about back then, we didn't have as much noise, right? So you knew, right? You didn't. And then when the league first started, it was all this money to pour in.
Right.
Then it faded because it's a business model of things. But to speak about Dawn, we were with USA Basketball all the time, right? Because we were trying out for teams. So I got closer as a player. But then when she was in college, you know, we got to know her. But probably in the last 10, 12 years, I actually go do some stuff down there with her because I think she's one of the best leaders of the game.
For real.
You know, and I mean, I think Dawn is wonderful. I mean, we probably talk every week just from the standpoint of picking her brain. She's picking my brain. And I think she's a phenomenal person. When she took that job, I want to say at the time, maybe Alabama and South Carolina was coming open. I remember talking to her, and I said, you know, Alabama is football. I don't care what you do down there. But to fast forward, she can go to South Carolina where a Confederate flag was on the courthouse. To now there's a statue of Asia Wilson on the campus where Asia's grandmother couldn't walk on the campus.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, that's moving some stuff, right? And I know they hate when I'm like, look, that's reality. And that's the thing that Dawn has done outside of being very successful, you know, coaching Olympic teams, winning medals, putting people in position to be successful. So she's one of my good friends. I respect her so much. Yeah, I think she's tremendous.
What do you think she did? Like, what is it about her that got her to turn that South Carolina program into a power? Because when she took that job, a lot of people were saying, "What is she thinking about?"
Right.
Like, that's a that's not a good situation you're going into.
Listen, if we were playing spades, which Dawn loves to play, she wants to win at everything. If we were driving down the street, she want to beat you there. Like, she's so freaking competitive, right? And not in an annoying sense, but in the way she moves, the way she speaks, who she surrounds herself with. And I swear I'm not surprised at all, because she's been so many places. She's the same. She's driven. She's real. And if she gets people that can accept how real she is, they're gonna rock with her. And that's what she's been able to do.
Now, the biggest hurdle, I think, especially like your profession that you have to deal with, is the overseas aspect of the game.
Right.
How hard is it, and what is I guess the environment to be like to coach overseas, to get people to like who they have, like this is the only way that they can maintain, like the WNBA only is like part of their salary. They have to go overseas to supplement the rest of they pretty much their lifestyle, and that language barrier, not knowing where you at, the home, like ain't no way you getting a home cooked like a home cooked meal,
Right.
like where
Some
you know what's going
some
on.
dirty rice.
Yeah, you can't
Gravy.
jump
Right.
alive. What is that?
Smothered okra.
We got
Exactly.
borscht for you.
It's a borscht, exactly. Look, I done had so much borscht, man. I don't know what to do with it. I really don't. But I think if you think about it, any sport, if you have a 7-year career, it's pretty good, right?
Right.
If you have 10, it's great. But if you think about, we're not talking about why they have to go, but if they play 10 years, but they're getting 20 seasons, that's good money, right?
Yep.
And sometimes we always talk about the high income earners, and I was fortunate to coach on a team that paid those players. I mean, I coached Diana, Sue, Tina, Lauren Jackson, everybody there, but they had to supplement the income. The thing is, if they play until, let's say Sue played till she's 41, half her life not even over, right?
Right.
So you got to get that money, but the language barrier, you try to go to places where they really understand that. I mean, I was in Russia 6 years, and I think at the age that I wanted to learn the language. I wanted to wake up and see the players and say "Здравствуйте," "Завтра тренировки тесты 3 sit." So I said hello. Practice is tomorrow at 10:30. So when you start learning their language, they say, "You don't want to translate?" I'm like, "No, I'm a little bit older. I want to learn the language." They just wrap their arms around you. So it's really hard, all this stuff that's going on right now with BG, because we were all there, had, great times there, so it's tough now. But you just figure out a way, because the money is really, really good. Like the max salary in the WNBA is $228,000.
Right.
Now, relative to 5 months of basketball, great health insurance benefits, all that good stuff. But I can say this because it's public knowledge. I mean, Stewie made $1 million in Russia. 7 years ago, Sylvia made $750,000 in
Yep.
Russia when I was there. Like,
Yep. They
and
make
so
more money over there.
and so it's part of it. It's unfortunate, but you learn to work with it, and they try to make you comfortable. They give you extra tickets so family can come over there.
Mhm.
You get 3 days off, fly to Israel. It's westernized. I mean, I would fly to Israel on the weekend just to go to Tel Aviv and
Yeah.
have a good time. So you find a way to make it work, but it's tough as women, because like they're trying to have kids, they're freezing their eggs, they missing birthdays and relationships and all that good stuff. So they're doing the damn thing to make it work.
How long it took you to actually be able to speak fluid Russian language?
I don't think I'm fluent. I think I understand more than I can speak.
Okay.
Like, I mean, I could tell somebody what I need. I can call my driver and tell him what time I wanted to be somewhere. And if I was lost, I could find my way. And I hadn't been there in a while, so I'm probably a little bit rusty. But it's funny when you hear it, it kind of comes back. But look, when you're trying to survive, it's amazing what you can do, right? Let me learn this damn language in case I'm lost.
Real talk.
So, having the good for you in Russia, how hard is to watch Brittany Griner go through
Oh man.
what she's going through, knowing like it's one of those places like you had good times over there, what I'm saying, good stuff going on, but to see what she's going through and knowing the legal situation and stuff.
Yeah, I think there's a long line of people that had a good experience in Russia.
Mhm.
A lot of players talk about it. And the thing about sports is that the politics very seldom touch us, right? And so that's what's so tough about this. I mean, BG had been over there forever, was going back over there to play with her team, but it seems surreal. Like when it first happened, it was back in February, and my heart just sank because I can't say this. It's bullshit, really, right?
You just assumed she was gonna come home after a couple weeks.
Yeah,
'Cause
yeah.
I feel like if it was like LeBron, but see, like it's hard to say that because they don't have to go over there.
Yeah, and it's not even that. It's crazy because she was, I mean, she was traveling back to come to a camp for USA basketball. That's what's crazy, right? So she's coming back to her country to train for the national team. Now she's going back to Russia, and and we can debate all day about a vape, a cartridge, or how much. Don't get me started on that. But at the end of the day, that's someone's daughter.
Yeah.
That's in a cell about the size
Somebody's
of a
wife.
closet. A wife, and it's just like, and then I get emotional because we know BG, right? I mean, she is that human.
Yep.
So it's really tough, and I think a lot of players are kind of hesitant to go back over there.
Right.
On the men's side, some went, but you just never know.
Yeah.
Never know. It's tough.
When we talk about, you just said how some players go overseas and they made more money than they did playing for the WNBA. But we talk about somebody like Tia Cooper, right? Who is capitalizing so much outside of the WNBA with so many endorsements and so many different things she's doing to earn different streams of revenue. What's your take on how Tia Cooper has approached, using basketball, using, that to be able to capitalize financially?
Yeah, and she's not alone, and I'm glad you brought her up. That's the caveat to keeping other players here. And like it's not going to match the income over there, but you could be home, raise your kids, be with your wife, your husband, your family, and still make $250,000. Then there's other value in that, and that's the part that I like. That's why I want us on television more. That's why I was part of this professional league, Athletes Unlimited, because everything's on TV. Now there's paid sponsorships, and it doesn't sound like a lot of money, but if someone can get $5,000 for making a post,
it adds up.
Man, look, I made $10,000 my first job. I thought it was $1.2 million.
Right.
Right. So it's that part. So I love what she's doing. I don't think she started out that way because I remember when she was AAU and they were Diamond the Shields and all of them. She happens to be a very attractive young lady.
Yep.
She's smart. She can parlay her basketball skills.
Charisma about herself.
Yes, and she can. And I don't even know her personally. I saw her on the street one day in New Orleans. She was telling me about somewhere to go eat. Didn't even recognize me, and I didn't recognize her at first because she had a hat on. But just in that small amount of time, so I'm glad that basketball was a springboard for a different stream of income for her. She's probably not even done.
But her dad talked about, because her brother Sharif, he talked about how he had a vision for his kids. Like they was super popular social media wise before they even got to the league.
Right.
And he always talked about how he wanted his kids to capitalize outside of the game and be able to, get different streams of revenue from whoever, from different businesses because of how they are and how they carry themselves and, what they wear and stuff like that. And I think their dad understood the big picture. And I think that's why you see, because the brother did a good job too. I mean, he's not a household name in the NBA, but
he's sustainable.
Yes. I mean, he got like 1 million followers on Instagram, and whether people won't like it or not, that sells. And businesses want to be a part of some type of athletes that have all the followers.
I agree. I like it. That's the jump off.
Right.
That's the spin off. Where if you don't have a 7 or 8 year career, and so that's a really really good example of that.
Do you think the Sparks management, like the owners, the general manager, do you think they have an issue with all the outside things that Tia Cooper does to make money outside of what they
she
pay
wasn't
her?
with them this past year.
Right.
That I don't think so at all because Chinea Gumake is on there and she's with TNT, ESPN,
right,
NBA.
right.
Like I think they're
Right.
okay with that because every time that person's seen, then you're seen,
Mhm.
and they're gonna plug you whether they mean to or not. Right.
My question, one of the statements I have to make about just women coaches and then women sport athletes, period. Because as a high school coach who coaches football, I tell my kids all the time, like, there's nothing tougher than being a woman in sports because just the sheer biology of things. You know, a man doesn't have to have a baby. A man doesn't have something that he goes through. You know what I'm saying? And like it's just expected to go out there and perform
Right.
and all that stuff. How do y'all handle just the natural? Like, all right, like, 'cause like if a kid, if a boy is over there cramping up, hey, drink some pickle juice, get up out there.
Pickle juice.
You know what I'm saying? Hey, pickle juice. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Get up out there. You know what I'm saying? On the flip side, it's like, hey.
It's just listen. It's just part of our existence. You can probably name a mama, an aunt, a grandmother that did the damn thing when you thought they couldn't, right?
Right.
And so that's the easy part. See this T-shirt I got on? This the hard part. I'm going to say, invest in women, pay women, and hire women. That's where we at now.
I like that.
Right? Like that's where we are now because that part we understood that assignment.
Right.
You know, it's the other one that people need to understand that look, people are here and women are here and we're real and we can rock with just about anybody. But you're right. I've been around some incredible female and guys as well, you know, that you learn from. So, we're pretty good people.
My last question before I let you go, Pokey.
Okay.
I know you love jazz.
Yes.
Okay. So I need your top jazz player of all time.
Oh.
And I need your top 5 women's basketball player of all time, whether it was college,
my
whether it was high school,
God.
whether it was WNBA, it don't
Killing
matter.
me.
Top jazz player,
On the spot.
top 5
Oh
women's
my
basketball
God.
players of all time. Let's get it.
And
But
you
if I had to
in
go-
For
New
the
Orleans.
record, Louis
Oh
Armstrong.
my
I know that
God.
might be cliche.
No.
Louis Armstrong is my favorite just because he broke down those racial barriers.
Listen,
and
You
stuff
probably
like
don't
that.
know nobody else. That's
I would-
it.
Nah, I mean
listen.
that's all I know.
That was just it.
No,
Dizzy Gillespie, baby.
no, Satchmo. I'm down with that. I love Coltrane. I
Okay.
love Miles. I know that's a little bit old, but that's kind of that era that we
Can't
like
go
to
wrong.
be in. I can't go wrong there. Basketball wise, oh my God!
Here we go.
Listen, I'm
Now
gonna.
you know there's gonna be a snippet.
It's okay. I'm gonna start with the last name we mentioned. Simone is
Oh.
that person,
So,
right?
so we got
Sylvia Fowles
2.
is that person. They have to still be playing, not playing.
No,
No.
Doesn't matter.
It's
Women,
Pokey top
all
5.
All
Women?
women. All women.
All women.
Wow, the boy, y'all gonna get me in trouble. Look, I gotta give the nod to Sue Bird.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
The longevity of things.
The Chris Paul of the WNBA.
Yeah. Boy, Tina and Lauren is the struggle here. Lauren was a stretch 5 before that was a stretch 5. Can I have
Who was
them?
taller?
Have them? Lauren
Lauren?
6'5", Tina 6'2". I need I need them to be a hybrid. I need them to be together.
I-
Lauren and Tina,
I-
and then Diana Taurasi.
So no Cheryl, no Cynthia. Oh, hey, it's Pokey.
But look, but here's the thing. They are, but I'm talking about what I was fortunate enough to be in the space of those people. So I'm speaking from a different place. I love Scoop, talk to her all the time, respect them. Cheryl, she does the commentating for AAU at
Yep.
AU. But like to be in the space and occupy with those people and see how they go about being great, I can't dismiss it.
My last question for you, Pokey. Who's the next one up for women's basketball?
The next what?
Who's the next one up for women's basketball?
In what capacity?
The
Hooping,
face- the
coach,
face
of-
of the league.
the flagship, like
Oh,
the one that like you like LeBron is
Yeah,
for,
listen.
for the NBA.
I
Who's
think
the
you
next
got
one?
I think you got a peak of Stewie and Asia going at it, right?
Okay.
And then sometimes it's hard for posts to carry that.
Yeah.
So they're looking for a guard. So
Right.
I think it's wide open because Sue's leaving. D is on the verge of being out of there.
She probably got 2 years.
You know,
tops.
I don't. Maybe not. But I think it's interesting for me to see those post hybrid players occupy that space. You know, they were both up for MVP and Defensive Player of the Year. So I think it's kind of wide open to see who's going to step in there next. For sure.
For the record, my top 5. I wanted to put Cheryl Miller in my top 5, but I actually didn't get to watch her growing up.
Right.
I just seen a bunch of like the classic highlights that come on ESPN, and she looked like she was a dog.
She was.
She was. You know what I'm saying? But
She was.
I can't put it in my top 5 because I didn't really watch her. But my top 5 is Maya Moe, Simone Augustus, Shamika Horslaw, Cynthia Cooper, Tarazzi.
Okay.
That's my
okay.
top 5.
I like
That's
that.
my top 5.
I like
hey,
that.
hey, we got the same. I just gotta take Hoslaw. I gotta put Cheryl Miller in. I gotta put it in.
Okay. I like that.
For to hear other NBA players say, "Hey, I watched Cheryl dog Reggie."
Yeah, Reggie said.
I watched.
Right,
I
right.
watched. Like
Yeah.
we
Right.
went to an open court and it was like, man, you want to play. You like you kind of like, hey, she a girl, but like you see her come in and like
Coming in with that
boom,
Jerry
boom,
curl.
boom, boom, and they hit you with
The
and then
activator,
slap you on the
yeah.
butt, run
Yeah,
away,
follow the drip.
Right. Right.
you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah,
Yeah.
you can't.
I like
you know,
that.
You
Yeah.
can't. I can't go against that. I can't
Yeah.
go against that.
Yeah.
I like
yeah.
that for sure.
But I tell you, man, appreciate you coming on FanView, Pokey, man. We definitely got to do this in the near future. You know, him was talking and the producers, man. I know that, you know, I don't know if this is your future plans, but I know you got a head coaching job in your future coming up.
Oh God.
I just want to see you lead another organization and put all of the naysayers to rest.
Oh Lord,
I want to see.
Oh my God.
You got to represent Aimer, man. You got to represent the River Parish.
Listen, first of all, I'm gonna say this. Thank y'all for having me. You said this was the first, so I'm like, damn, I better knock it out the park.
Yep.
If not,
Yep.
I'm never gonna be asked back. I'd love to come back.
Yep.
And look, you know, I've been fortunate to lead, and that's kind of what we do. Sometimes I can lead from the back, and if that's in my orbit, then it's gonna happen. You know, naysayers, I love them because they're in the stands watching, right?
Ooh.
I always say
that's-
pressure is privilege.
That part.
And
That
I would
part.
love, and don't hate me, Poke.
Oh,
I would
Lord.
love to go to a WNBA game.
Okay.
You gonna take a trip to Seattle?
I would love it would doesn't matter because the last women's basketball game that I really remember was Karl Malone's when Karl Malone daughter like last game was at La Tech.
Oh
Sure.
yeah.
And we just so happened to be playing a game. Our boys basketball team just happened to be playing a game like in the area, and I'm from Louisiana, so we just drove up
Okay.
there and watched it. But like that's the last because like we don't. New Orleans don't have one. Like we
Right.
talked about this before the show. Like the closest is Dallas or Atlanta.
Right.
You know,
Right.
to actually get
there.
you know, for this area. So I would love.
I'm gonna hold you to that.
Yeah.
I know somebody who works in Seattle, so maybe I can hook you up.
Hey.
No, I'm
hey.
serious because a lot of people come to Dallas and then Atlanta because it's nice and easy to get to. So we can make that happen. You'll enjoy it.
Hey, FanView will be there with your shirt on.
Yes.
I love
yes.
it. I love it.
Yes.
I love it.
Yes. Pokey Chatman, man, on FanView. Come on, man. This is a historic day on FanView.
River Parish, stand up.
There it is.
Not the Tri-Parish. River Parish. River Parish.
Have a whole hometown coming at you.
I'm just joking. Thank you guys. I appreciate you.
Make sure you guys subscribe. You know, tune in, man. We will be dropping this link. You know, for this podcast with the famous and legend Pokey Chatman, man. We signing out.
Thank you, fellas.